Okay, so we are actually getting started with integrations topic, guys. So first we will understand what is integration. First we will understand what is integration. Integration is nothing but communicating to applications. Communicating to applications. So communicating to applications in the sense, let us say Facebook and ServiceNow has to talk to each other. So communication should happen between Facebook and ServiceNow. Communication should happen between Facebook and WhatsApp. Then you have to do some integration between Salesforce and WhatsApp, Salesforce and Facebook, and ServiceNow and WhatsApp, and ServiceNow and Facebook. So if two applications has to talk to each other means you have to integrate two applications. Integration is nothing but so communication between two applications are called integration. So here, right, we have two types of integrations available. Two types of integrations are available. One is unidirectional integration. One is unidirectional integration. Another one is bidirectional integration. Okay, unidirectional integration and bidirectional integration. What do you mean by unidirectional integration? What do you mean by bidirectional integration? I will tell you. So unidirectional integration means, so let us take an example. ServiceNow. ServiceNow. So another tool you can take Salesforce. Okay. So communication should happen between ServiceNow and Salesforce. So how the communication will happen between ServiceNow and Salesforce? We have to integrate these two. We have to integrate these two. So here in the integrations, we are actually discussing two things here. One is unidirectional and bidirectional. What is unidirectional? Only Facebook is actually talking to Salesforce, but Salesforce is not talking to ServiceNow. Unidirectional means one-way communication. Only ServiceNow is talking to Salesforce, but Salesforce is not talking to ServiceNow. Or only Salesforce is talking to ServiceNow. ServiceNow is not talking to Salesforce. That is actually unidirectional, one-way communication. One-way communication is called unidirectional integration. Is that clear?
Yes, Uday.
What is bidirectional here? So when ServiceNow will talk to Salesforce, Salesforce also will talk to ServiceNow. Okay. So I will give you a better example here. So in the ServiceNow, you created an incident record. So the incident record should the incident record should be created on the Salesforce as well. So in the Salesforce also, incident record will be created. Okay. When you create a record on the ServiceNow, when you create incident record on the ServiceNow, it will create an incident record on the Salesforce. Okay. But when you create an incident record on the Salesforce, the incident record will not be created on the ServiceNow. That is actually called unidirectional. Is that clear?
Yes, Uday.
So now we will actually understand one thing here. When you create a record in ServiceNow, it will create a record on Salesforce. Okay. In the Salesforce, when you create a record, in the Salesforce, when a record is created, in the Salesforce, when a record is created, okay, it will create a record on the ServiceNow. Okay. When you update the record in the ServiceNow, the record will be updated in the Salesforce. When you update the record on the Salesforce, the record will be updated on the Salesforce, the ServiceNow. So here, the communication is happening between both the applications. ServiceNow is talking to Salesforce. Salesforce is also talking to ServiceNow. Okay. So if the communication is actually happening between two applications, then that is called bidirectional integration. If the communication is happening from only one side, that is actually called unidirectional integration. So we all know, right? One side love, two side love.
Yes, Uday.
One side love means you love her, but she doesn't love you. Okay. So both sides love means you will love her, she will also love you. It is like similar things. Unidirectional means you will love her, but she doesn't love you. Bidirectional means you love her, in return she also loves you. Okay, do you guys understand what is unidirectional and bidirectional?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, here unidirectional can be from ServiceNow. Request can go from ServiceNow to Salesforce, or see, let me just take this out. Okay, so here ServiceNow will either ServiceNow will talk to Salesforce or Salesforce will talk to ServiceNow. One way. Remember this point, guys. See, one side love can be two types. One side love can be two types. What is that? Whether the boy might love her, or whether the girl might love the guy. Okay. See, one-sided love means it is not that always boys love her, right? There is a chance that girls can also fall in one-side love, right? Do you guys understand what I mean?
Yes, sir.
See, what I'm trying to tell you is ServiceNow will talk to Salesforce. That is actually unidirectional. Second case, only Salesforce will talk to ServiceNow. ServiceNow will not talk to Salesforce. That is also second case. So when ServiceNow is actually our application, right? ServiceNow is actually our application. So when ServiceNow is actually sending the request to Salesforce, when ServiceNow is actually sending the request to Salesforce, that is called outbound. That is called outbound. When ServiceNow is receiving the request from the Salesforce, then that is called inbound. Do you understand, guys? What is inbound, what is outbound? You guys are able to understand or not?
Can you please repeat once more?
Okay. So here one side law means consider the Salesforce is actually ServiceNow is actually a boy. Consider Salesforce is actually a girl. So boy is actually is actually in one side law with Salesforce. That means only ServiceNow is actually talking to Salesforce. That is actually called unidirectional, right? So second case, second case, this is actually second love story. Okay. So only ServiceNow is talking to Salesforce. Okay. So this is actually called by unidirectional integration, and from ServiceNow you are actually sending request to Salesforce. That is called it is called outbound. So here Salesforce is actually sending request to ServiceNow. For ServiceNow it is actually inbound. Did you guys get what I'm trying to tell? You guys are able to catch it or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
See, here you can ServiceNow can send the request to Salesforce. That is also one-way communication. Or Salesforce also can can also send request to ServiceNow, right? That is also called unidirectional integration, right? So when ServiceNow is actually sending the request, that is called outbound. That is called outbound. When ServiceNow is sending the request to external systems, that is called outbound. When ServiceNow is receiving the request, that is called inbound. So I have to make you guys more clear on this inbound and outbound. Did you guys understand what is inbound, what is outbound?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So let me just put it in another way. So in the ServiceNow system, whenever you create a record on a table, the record has to be created on an Excel system, means you are actually sending request to external systems. That is called outbound. Okay. When external system is sending the request to ServiceNow platform, that is called inbound. Okay. So here ServiceNow is actually creating an incident record. When the incident record is created in ServiceNow, the incident record should create in Salesforce, means that is actually called outbound. So Salesforce is actually sending request to ServiceNow. So ServiceNow is actually receiving that request, means for ServiceNow it is actually inbound integration. So hope you all are clear with what is inbound, what is outbound.
Yes, Uday.
Okay. Yeah. So for inbound, we have actually two web services available. We have two web services available. What are those web services? We have REST web services. We have SOAP web services. Okay. So using these two web services, you can send request to external system. You can receive the request from any external system. Okay. So you can either use REST or SOAP to send the request from ServiceNow. You can use either REST or SOAP to receive the request from external system. Is that clear?
Yes, Uday.
Okay. So what is outbound? What is inbound? Now you guys tell me.
Service now
when
to
external
other
system.
Sending the request to external system, that is called outbound.
receiving a connection from other system is inbound.
It's inbound. Okay.
Yeah, when ServiceNow is sending the request, that is called outbound. When ServiceNow is receiving the request, that is called inbound. Okay. So we have actually two types of web services available. One is REST web services, another one is SOAP web services. So we have actually two web services. We have to choose which web services we have to use for this integration. So how do we choose REST integration or SOAP integration? So whether we have to choose REST web services or SOAP web services, we have to identify. So suppose if the external system is only supporting XML format, so then we have to go for SOAP. If the external system is supporting XML, JSON, so every format means we have to go for REST web services. Okay. So for REST web services, for outbound integrations, we have actually REST message here. For SOAP web services, for outbound integration, we have SOAP message here. Clear?
Yes, Uday.
Okay, guys, consider HDFC Bank. HDFC Bank. So whenever you create a record in the ServiceNow system, it has to create a record on another tool. You have to create a record on another tool. So here it can be another tool, can be some HDFC internal tool. HDFC internal tool. So that is only supporting XML. Then you will go for SOAP web services. In the SOAP web services, when you have to send the request from ServiceNow to external system, we have to go for outbound integrations, right? Am I confusing you or am I making you guys understand? Hello?
The format is clear, Uday.
Rest of the guys, I want to make rest of the guys very clear. Okay, leave about the SOAP integrations. Leave about the SOAP integrations. Let us talk about REST integrations. So we have unidirectional. Unidirectional means one-way communication. So it can be when ServiceNow is talking to the external system or external system is talking to the ServiceNow. So bidirectional means when ServiceNow is talking to Salesforce is also talking to ServiceNow. So both are happening. That is called bidirectional. So unidirectional. In the unidirectional, we have actually outbound integrations and inbound integrations. So outbound means when ServiceNow is actually sending the request, that is called outbound. So in the outbound, we have actually REST message available here. So for inbound, we have actually import set API, table API, and scripted REST APIs are available. So here, as per my requirement, when I have to send the request from ServiceNow to Salesforce, I have to go for outbound or not? I have to go for outbound, right?
Yes, Uday.
Yes.
So I have to go for outbound integration. For outbound integration, we have actually REST message available. So we use REST message. Using REST message, you will actually send the request from ServiceNow to external system. Okay, that is clear, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So now here, as we don't have access to any other application like Salesforce or any other tool, I am taking ServiceNow, another ServiceNow instance as an example. So here guys, it is not actually ServiceNow to ServiceNow integration. Don't imagine that this is ServiceNow to ServiceNow integration. So here, in place of another ServiceNow instance, you can use Jira, you can use any external tool. So I am actually going to explain. I am going to explain how two systems will talk to each other. How two systems will talk to each other. So one tool is actually ServiceNow. Another tool, you can name it whatever. You can take Jira, you can take Salesforce, you can take Facebook, you can take WhatsApp, whatever the tool you take. So how to integrate that I am going to explain. Okay. I am just taking another ServiceNow instance as an example. Don't imagine that this is ServiceNow to ServiceNow integration. So in place of another ServiceNow instance, you can also keep Jira as well. You can also keep any external tool as well. So I am going to explain you the process to integrate with external system, not with ServiceNow to ServiceNow integration. This is clear, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to integrate with another ServiceNow instance. Okay. So can you guys come forward and give me your personal developer instance credentials? Okay. So this is actually my instance. So dev 88924 is actually my ServiceNow instance. So this is actually someone else's instance. So may I know who has actually given this instance? Narsimha. So this is actually Narsimha ServiceNow instance. This is actually my instance. So I have to, when I create a incident record here in my ServiceNow system, the incident record has to be created in Narsimha system. Okay. So here, remember one thing here, for my system, it is actually outbound. I am actually sending the request, right? For Narsimha system, it is inbound or not?
Yes.
Yes, it's involved.
For Narsimha, it is actually inbound. Okay. For my system, it is actually outbound. For Narsimha, it is actually inbound.
Yeah.
Okay. So here you can see for outbound, we have REST message here. For inbound, we have 3 APIs available here. So we will actually deal with the table API. So now what I do here is I am actually now on Narsimha instance. Please go on mute, guys. Now I am on Narsimha instance. In the Narsimha instance, what I do, I will actually take the table API. I will take the table API. How to take the table API, I will actually tell you guys. How to take the table API, I will tell you. So you need to go to REST API Explorer. Okay. You need to go to REST API Explorer. You can just click on create record here. So on which table you want to create record? Incident. I want to create a record on incident table. Okay. So here you have to provide some payload, caller. Caller, short description. Description. contact type. So here you can just click on send here. It has actually created a record on incident table with no details. So this is the incident record that is created. So here, right, whatever you see here, now table, this is actually called table API. This is called table API. So here you can also take this one. Okay. This is called table API. So see here, this is actually instance name API. Now table, which table? Incident table. So this is actually called table API. Okay. So this is actually incident table API. So if you want to grant the problem table API, you can actually provide problem here. So if you want to provide change table API, you can actually provide change request here, change underscore request. This is actually change table API. So now what I am providing is I am actually providing incident table API. Okay. Incident table API. Okay. So this request body also I am taking. Okay. This is called request body. So this is called a request body. So here what I have to do? I have to create an account. So where do you create an account? In the user table? You go to the users. You will create a new user here. INC integration. Okay. Here you will actually select web services access only for integrations. So if you select web services access only, you will not be able to impersonate as this integration user. Did you guys get my point? If you don't select this web services access only, you can actually impersonate as this integration user. I am actually using this user account only for integration. Okay, is that clear? So I am just taking the username. I also have to take the password as well. So how can I set the password? So from here I can set the password. Password I am just keeping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So here I have set the password as well. So the password that I have set is actually, this is the password. So here, right, from this Narasimha instance, this is actually Narasimha instance. From this Narasimha instance, I have taken the table API. This is actually table API. And I have taken the request body. This is actually called request body. And I have taken the user credentials. I have created a user account. I have taken the credentials, user credentials. But remember one thing, guys, this user have sufficient roles. For REST web services, what roles they need is actually REST service role.
REST underscore.
REST underscore service. So they should have REST underscore service role. They also should have incident table access. This integration user should have incident table access. So to grant the incident table access, you can grant
Yes.
ITIL role as well. Guys, please go on mute. Okay. So what are all the things that I have done here? I have taken the table API and the request body and the username and password. For this user account, I have actually granted the REST related roles or not. Okay. Is that clear?
Yes, Uday.
So I have taken these details from Narasimha instance. I have taken these details from Narasimha instance, right? So these are the details that I need to send a request from my instance to Narasimha instance. These are the details that I need to send a request from my instance to Narasimha instance. Is that clear? Here you tell me for outbound integration, I'm actually using REST message here. So for my instance, it is actually outbound integration. For Narasimha instance, it is actually inbound integration, right? So as it is inbound integration, I have taken the table API here. So this is actually called a table API. For Narasimha instance, it is inbound. As it is inbound, I have taken table API here. So this is actually table API, right? This is table API, right? So here now what I am going to do is I am going to REST message here in my instance. So here in the application navigator, you can just type REST message. Okay, REST message. So under system web services, you have actually outbound module available. Under the outbound module, you have actually REST message here. So what you will do, you will create a REST message here. You can just click on new. Narasimha INC. So you will take this URL here. This is actually Narasimha instance URL. This is Narasimha instance URL. You will actually provide it here. Okay. And here you can see authentication type. You can take basic here. Okay. You can just save this one. So here in the authentication type, so why do we provide this authentication details here? So here, if we provide authentication details, only then we will be able to connect this URL. If we are not providing authentication details here, we won't be able to connect this URL from my system. So that is why I'm actually providing here as credentials. So here I'm just clicking on new here. Narasimha. So here username. You have username, right? This username you will place it here. This password you will actually provide it here and submit this one. Now, if these credentials are correct, my system will be able to reach out this particular URL. I am just saving this one. So once I create the REST message, right? Here you have actually related list called HTTP methods. You have to create HTTP methods. So let us say we have already default get, right? So what is default get? So using this get function from the Narasimha instance, whatever the in the Narasimha instance in the incident table, how many records are there? Those many records you can actually pull it using this get function. Okay. So you can just click on test here. So 2-0 success. 2-0 success. So these all are the incident records. These all are the incident records that are actually from Narasimha instance. We are able to get it in my instance. So let me just go to the JSON online formatter. So these many records, all these records are actually from Narasimha instance. So I have actually got all these records details from Narasimha instance to my instance. See, did you guys get my point?
Yes, Uday.
So from the Narasimha instance, I am able to get all the records, all the incident record to my system. Did we get or not? So using this response means we have got the response from the Narasimha instance. Clear or not, guys?
Okay.
Uday, for to establish for another applications like Salesforce, does it in the same way, right? How we
Yes.
have provided
So here, right, here in the REST message, here you will provide Salesforce URL.
okay.
Here in the basic authentication, you will actually provide Salesforce credentials.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you get when you get here, right, when you open this get here, right. So from the Salesforce, when you just click on test here, right. When you click on test here, right. So it will actually pull the details from the Salesforce. It will actually get the response from the Salesforce. It will get the response.
Yeah, that I understood. As an JSON object, it is giving an results.
Yes. So rest of the guys, you guys are able to understand or not? Hello.
Getting, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So here, this is actually to pull the details from external system to ServiceNow. We are actually pulling the details from external system to ServiceNow. We have to send the request to ServiceNow system, right?
Post we will use, right?
Yeah. So now I am actually creating another HTTP method. For creating, we will always use HTTP method post. For creating, we will always use HTTP method called post. So here I'm actually giving the method name as HTTP method name as create here. So you will actually provide the same URL here. So this URL can be Salesforce, this URL can be Jira, whatever the URL that you give. So ServiceNow will actually communicate with this URL. Okay. Okay. Let me just save this one. HTTP method. So here in the HTTP request, here in the content, right? In the HTTP request, in the HTTP method, you have actually HTTP request. So here you will actually provide the content. So here you will actually take the content here. Okay. You will provide the content here. Guys, please go on mute. So here in the caller ID, you can pass some user record, user SysID. So here I'm actually passing some SysID here. Short description from Uday instance. Content type, you can, I'm just keeping email here. So let me just save this one. So now I have to test whether my system is able to create records on external system or not. So here you can go here, you can just click on test. So if you get the response as 200 here, 201 here, that means my system is able to reach Narasimha instance. So this is the content that I have actually sent to Narasimha instance. This is the response that I have actually got from Narasimha instance. So this is the record number. This is the incident number that is actually created in the Narasimha instance. So if I go to the Narasimha instance, if I open this particular record in the Narasimha instance, right? See, this is the record that I created from my instance to Narasimha instance. Is that clear?
Yes, Uday. How do we keep payload data validation, Uday?
Yeah, we will do that. We will do that. So here, what I have done, I have actually created a REST message. So inside that REST message, I have actually created HTTP method called create. This is the HTTP method I created. So inside the HTTP method, I have selected the HTTP method at post. Post is used to create the record. So here I have to provide the endpoint. Then the endpoint is nothing but target URL. So here you have actually provided the target URL. Here you have provided the content here. So here from this Uday instance, email, this SysID, these values should be dynamic. These values should be dynamic, guys. This should not be, this SysID should not be always this SysID. This short description should not be always the short description. This description should not be always this description. This content type should not be always this email. So these values should be dynamic. So here I am going to make this as dynamic. How do we make this dynamic? Dollar, flower brackets, collar. Dollar, flower brackets, I am just keeping SD. Dollar, flower brackets, description. Content type, I'm actually giving CT. So here I'm actually making this value, color value and short description value and content type. I'm making these values as dynamic. So how am I going to make these as dynamic? I'm going to show you. So I just created a REST message. Inside this REST message, I've created HTTP method called, create. So here inside that create HTTP method, I'm actually passing these details: caller ID, short description, content. So here, right, what I'm going to do is now I am actually going to incident table. Incident table. In the incident table, what I'm going to do is I am going to create a business rule. So when I am going to create the business rule, whenever incident record is created, okay, I am going to create a business rule. We all know, right, when does the business rules will trigger? Just clicking on advanced. So I am going to use async business rule. So why am I using async business rule? It has to send the request to external system, right? So external system has to send the response back, right? So it will take some time to, so this communication will take some milliseconds. So then to avoid the performance issues, I am using async business rule here. So once a record is created, so you can also use after business rule. So why am I using async business rule? To avoid the performance issues, then I'm actually using async business rule here. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use advanced. In the advanced, I am going to trigger this REST message. This REST message that I created, right? I am going to trigger this REST message from this business rule. How am I going to trigger? Where REST is equal to SN_WS dot REST message v2. For SOAP message, you will use SOAP message v2. For REST message, you will use REST message v2. So what is the REST message? What is the HTTP method? So REST message name is actually this one. This is the REST message name. So that REST message name I am going to provide here. So which HTTP method you are going to trigger? Create, right? So this HTTP method name you will take from here. Okay. So inside this HTTP method, if you open this HTTP method, you have to pass these values, caller, short description. You have to pass caller, short description, description, and content type, right? Now what I'm going to do is, here I'm going to use this rest variable. I've declared a variable, right? Rest. I'm going to use this rest variable, rest dot here. Why it is not showing the auto sessions? Set string parameter. What is the parameter here? Caller is actually the parameter. Caller. So here in the caller, what are you passing? Current dot. So current incident caller ID. Caller ID. Okay. SD description CT. See, caller, SD, description, CT are the parameters that I defined in the content here. See, caller, SD, description, CT. Same parameters I defined here. Caller, SD, description, CT. So here in the current dot short description, short underscore description. Current dot content type. So here what you will do, rest dot execute. So you will have to execute this one. So once you execute this one, right, it will actually create a record on the Narasimha instance. So let me just save this one. Now what I'm going to do, I am going to create a incident record on the incident table. So when I create a incident record here, right? So when I create the incident record, first the business rule will be triggered. So from the business rule, we are actually triggering the REST message. Inside the REST message, we are triggering the HTTP method. Inside the HTTP method, we are actually passing this caller, short description, and this content type. Okay. So whatever the values that I'm selecting here, those values I am actually passing to the external system. So once I save this one, business rule will be triggered. So once the business rule is triggered, so it will actually communicate with the external system. So it would have created a record on the incident table in the Narasimha instance. So let me just open Narasimha instance. Let me just go to incident table. See, a record is created in the Narasimha instance. It is 9 minutes ago, na? Okay. Here, it did not actually create a request. Somewhere we are actually doing the mistake.
Contact type, not content type, Sadhguru.
Okay. So which is fine. I think we have written properly or not this one. I am not really sure. Um,
If you see the logs, at least we'll get some information.
Yeah, we will receive the logs. We have no logs available here. I have already. Let me just duplicate this incident record. I have already business rule written in incident table. Let me just take that. Same thing I have written now.
Parameters check once, so that maybe, yeah, correct.
Content type. Dot execute.
New is missing, Uday. New. When we are creating.
Okay.
New missing.
Yeah. So we will just give a try again. So I am going to create another incident record here. So once you create the record, right, the business rule will be triggered. The business rule will actually trigger the REST message. Inside the REST message, you will actually pass the current values. With the current values, it will actually create a record on the Narasimha instance. See, in the Narasimha instance, record is created here just now. So Uday test 2. So caller is also Abraham Lincoln. Whatever the details that we provided here, caller as Abraham Lincoln. So here, short description and description values we are actually providing here. So here in the while creating the incident record, did we select any contact type here? We did not select any contact type, right? So
No,
that
no.
is why it did not actually send any contact type value here. So we are able to send a caller value, short description value, description value to the external system, and there we created the record. So here in the external system, the record is actually created with 10327 number. Okay, this number we have to have it on this incident number. See, here we are actually, whenever the incident record is created in the ServiceNow system, that is actually creating the record in the external system, right? Whatever the record number that is created in the external system, that number we have to store it on this form. You guys are clear?
Yeah.
So why do we have to have that number? So for future purpose, let us say if you are actually updating this record, it has to update that record on the external system, right? So on what basis it will update the record on the external system? So you will have the reference. So you will have the ticket number here, right? So once the record is created here, that will create a record on the external system. Whatever the record that is created on the external system, that record number you have to store it on the form. Why do we have to store it on the form? To update the same record on the external system in future, you have to have the reference. That is why you will have to have that number here. Is that clear?
Okay.
Uday, what is SN underscore WS?
So WS means web services.
Oh, that
So
is-
SN is actually the keyword that will actually that ServiceNow uses for APIs.
okay. No, for to create this object, right?
Yes. Okay. So here you can manually write something like this here, or what you can do, you can go to the REST message. You can go to the REST message. This is actually the REST message HTTP method. This is the REST message. Under this REST message, we have actually HTTP method, right? So here what you can do is you can actually use preview script usage. You can either use this one. So what is the benefit of this one is actually you can directly copy the script here. Okay. You can directly copy the script. You can directly copy the script. You can go to the business rule, and inside the business rule, you can directly copy paste it. Okay, you can remove unwanted lines here. Okay.
But here there are no parameters, right? Arun?
So there are no parameters which we have to define. We have to
Okay.
define parameters.
Okay, that one we need to do manually.
We have to do it manually. So then you can take this out. You can keep these parameters inside this one. So in place of rest, you can keep R here. So this also will work. Okay. So they did use try catch method, but we don't have to use try catch here. Okay. So till here, let me just recap, guys. Let me just recap. What we have done today. So we have just learnt what is unidirectional, what is bidirectional, and we also have learnt what is outbound, what is inbound. For outbound integrations, we use REST message. For inbound integration, either we will use table API, import set API, or scripted REST API. Either of these three things. Today we have used table API for inbound integrations. For outbound integrations, we have used REST message. So from my ServiceNow system to external systems, I have to create a record means I have to create REST message. Inside the REST message, what I have done, I have provided inside the REST message, I have provided the endpoint. I also have provided the credentials, and then I have provided the content here. I made this content as dynamic. After making this content as dynamic, what I have done, I triggered this REST message from the business rule on the incident table. I triggered this REST message on the incident table business rule. So once a record is created on the incident table, this business rule will trigger. From this business rule, you are going to fire the REST message. Inside the REST message, you are actually going to pass these parameters caller, SD, description, and CT. And that is going to communicate with the external system. There it will create a record. Once the record is created, so it will actually get us the response. So regarding that response, we are going to discuss in tomorrow session. You guys are able to understand, right? How systems are actually integrating with external systems. Phone integration.
Yes.
Uday, you have written this code in your instance, right?
Sorry.
You have written the script in your instance, right?
Yeah, I have written script in my instance because
Okay,
I
okay.
have to send the request to external system, right?
Yes,
So
yes, I got
that
it.
is actually outbound integration. For outbound integration, what I have done, I have created REST message, right?
Message.
Right? Here, if you take a look at the Excel sheet, for outbound, I have used REST message. For inbound, I have used table API. This table API is actually, I actually used it. I have got it in Narasimha instance. For Narasimha instance, it is actually inbound, right? Narasimha instance will receive the request, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Hope you all understand how ServiceNow is actually sending the request to external systems. So it can be Jira, it can be any external tool. This is actually the way that you will actually send the request outside from the ServiceNow system. Okay. Clear or not, guys?
Yes, Uday.
Sir, even if Jira is on premise and we are sending even then we can integrate this ServiceNow on cloud with Jira on premise.
So here in this case, right, we cannot actually communicate directly with Jira
Okay.
if it is an on-premise. So what we have to do, we have to communicate through the mid server.
Okay.
So there is another concept called mid server. So through the mid server, we have to use mid server here, right? So we have to provide the mid server name here. So the communication will actually happen between the mid server. What happens whenever you create a record here in the ServiceNow system, the request will be sent to the mid server. Mid server will actually communicate with the external system. External system will send the response back to mid server. Mid server will actually give us the response. Mid server will actually act as mediator between ServiceNow system and the external system if it is actually on premise.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Hope you understand.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, tell me one mid-server, Uday.
Yeah. So mid server is actually a intermediate person. It will actually act as intermediate person. So here I tried to install the mid server on my instance, but I will actually tell you how to install the mid server in ServiceNow system. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a question. So it's only a demo class or hello?
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. There is a course for this like I already attended your ServiceNow classes. So this is only demo or you have a proper course for the integrations?
This is going to continue for coming 10 days. So I am going to explain outbound integrations, inbound integrations, scripted REST APIs, import set APIs, table APIs, SOAP integrations, SOAP message, SOAP web services. So I'm going to explain all these things. I'm going to explain all the integration stuff related stuff in coming 10 days.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Will it be the same?
Yesterday, we just understand what is integration, what is unidirectional integration, what is bidirectional integration. So in the integrations also, we have also discussed outbound integration and inbound integration. What do you mean by outbound? When ServiceNow is sending the request to external system, that is called outbound. When ServiceNow is receiving the request, that is called inbound. Okay. So here, right, if you take a look at here, this is a ServiceNow instance. This is also a ServiceNow instance. So here, when I create record in this instance, the record should be created here. ServiceNow is actually, this ServiceNow instance actually sending the request. Here it is outbound, but this ServiceNow instance is actually receiving the request. For this instance, it is inbound. Both are ServiceNow instances, right? When ServiceNow is sending the data, that is called outbound. When ServiceNow is receiving the data, that is called inbound. Here, this ServiceNow instance is sending the request to this instance, but this instance is receiving the request. So for this ServiceNow instance, it is inbound. For this ServiceNow instance, it is outbound. So if you take a look at here, for inbound integration, I am using table API. For outbound integration, I am using REST message. Okay. So first, I am actually creating table API in this instance. In this dev 1367756, I'm actually creating table API. So guys, we have actually a testing tool available for integration in ServiceNow system. We have testing tool available. That is actually called REST API Explorer. REST API Explorer. This is actually for testing, for integration testing purpose. So you can just click on this REST API Explorer. So here I'm actually selecting the table as incident. And let me just select the post here. Why the table name is not coming here? Loading tables.
It seemed like a postman, right, Uday?
Yeah, it is similar to like Postman.
Yeah.
Here I'm not using Postman here. I'm just
Mm.
using REST API Explorer.
Yeah.
See, if I use Postman, right? What you guys think like? Postman is actually another application. Postman is not another application. Postman is actually a testing tool
Yeah.
for integrations.
Yeah.
For integrations, Postman is actually a testing tool. So if you go through the integration videos or the YouTube, most of the integrations are explained using Postman tool. So everybody thinks that Postman is actually another application. Postman is not another application. Postman is actually a integration testing tool.
Yes.
So in place of integration, in place of Postman, I am directly using REST API Explorer. For testing purpose, we can use this one. So from here, I can create an incident. From this REST API Explorer as well, I can create an incident. So here you can pass caller, short description, contact type. So these are the details that we have actually sent, right? So using which I am actually sending this request. Here you can see 201 created. It has created the record. These are the details, response. These are the response. Okay. So yesterday what we have done, we have taken the table API, which is actually this one. Okay. So please go on mute, guys. I have taken this table API. I have taken this table API. In place of this one, I have kept incident here. So incident here. Okay. After that, this is the content that I have used yesterday. Okay. And then I have created a user account here. web services access only. Because this user account is not for logging in purpose. This is for integration purpose. That is why we are using web services access only. I'm just saving this one. Here we have to provide web services related roles here. Web services related means we are actually dealing with REST web services, right? We have to provide REST related roles here. Okay. So we have to provide REST service role and table related role. So incident, right? So I am actually granting ITIL role. Okay. This password is too lengthy.
Sir, you need to save it first.
Password.
Yeah,
I think it is
generate and then save.
Actually, there is another field for password also.
generated and saved. Both are done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. This is the username. This is the password. So what we do, we have actually taken the table API. For inbound integration, we have mentioned here that we are actually taking table API. So we have taken the table API. How did we take the table API? We went to the REST API Explorer. From here, we have taken this one. We have taken the content body. I mean, we have taken the request body, and then we created a user profile in the user table. Then we have provided user related sufficient roles here. Now I'm going to my instance. Yesterday we have created one instance, right? One REST message, right? If you go to the REST message here, yesterday I mentioned here as Narasimha instance, right? This is the one. This is not actually Narasimha instance. I'm actually changing this REST message details. So they okay. Here also we have to change the instance name. Okay. Here we have to change the user credentials as well. Just clicking on magnifying glass, creating new. Okay. Here, if you go here, so this is the username. This is the password. Submit. Okay. You can just save this one. So you have to open both these HTTP methods. Here also you have to change the credentials. Here also you have to change the instance name. Okay. So here I have to test whether my system is able to reach this instance or not. So if I click on test here, it is giving 200. 200 means success. So my system is able to reach this particular instance or not. We are able to reach it. Here also we will click this one. Yes, 201. My system is able to reach another service next. So here, right, we have created a REST message. Inside the REST message, we have actually created HTTP method. Under this REST message, we have created HTTP method. One is get HTTP method, another one is post HTTP method. Here, why do we use get HTTP method? If you want to retrieve data from external system, okay, my instance has to pull the details from the another system. So here, this ServiceNow instance is actually pulling this particular ServiceNow instance incident table records to get data. You are not doing anything. You are not creating. You are not updating. You are not deleting. Whatever the data is there in the external system, that data you are pulling here. Get function is used to pull the data. Let us say you want to get the live cricket score. You can pull the data. You can only pull the data, right? They will not allow you to modify the cricket score. They will give you just access to get that score live. Then we will use get function. Then we will use get HTTP method. Post. Why do we use post? If you want to create a record on the external system, then you will use post. Yesterday we have created record. Yesterday we have created record. Okay. So now today we will understand some query parameters. Here, using this get HTTP method, we can pull the details, right? So by default, it will pull all the details. While pulling the details, if you want to keep some query, see, now let me just go here. We are on actually get HTTP method. So here, if you go here, HTTP method, if I remove this one, query parameter, if I save this one, if you just click on this one, test, what will happen is that whatever the records are there in this, whatever the records are there in this system, right? In this system, how many incidents are there? Those many incidents you will actually get to this instance. I'll show you. When I click on this test here, you guys can see we have got a lot of records from this system. No, I don't want all these details. I want only limited details. So what you can do, you can actually keep a query here in the query parameters. Okay. So here by default, it is actually getting all the field values, right? You want only number field and a short description field. So here I'm just keeping the query here as so another query that I'm keeping here as. So I want only 2 records. Okay, here you can just click on test. So it should get only 2 records, only 2 values, 2 field values. See here, we have got only 2 record values are not. That too number short description. Query parameters. Earlier it was getting all the field values and all the records. We have kept the query here, right? In the query parameters. Okay. So here you have actually HTTP headers. Let us say if you want to get the content in the XML format, here you can just keep content type is equal to XML. Okay. So just you guys have to just remember that we use get function to retrieve the details from the external system into ServiceNow system. It can be another ServiceNow system, or it can be Jira, or it can be Salesforce, whatever the system it can be. We use get HTTP method to get the details from the external system. We will not be doing any CRUD operations there using get function, get HTTP method. Okay. Okay. So now if you go to this HTTP method, here we have used post. Why do we use post? Post is used to create the record. Post is used to create the record. Okay. So here you have actually specified this endpoint. Here you have actually provided the content here. So here this content you made dynamic. How did you make dynamic? Dollar flower brackets color, dollar flower brackets SD, dollar flower brackets description, dollar flower brackets CT. Okay. So we did use this HTTP method to create the record on external system. We created a REST message. After that, we created this HTTP method. And then we triggered this REST message from the business rule on the incident table. So here, if you take a look at the incident table, yesterday we created one business rule. Okay, let me just go to the business rules. This is not an Narasimha instance, right? Okay. So using this line of script, we are triggering the REST message. So REST message name changed, right? We have to change the REST message name here as well. This is the REST message name, right?
Yes, Uday.
HTTP method name is same. This dynamic keys are also we did not change. Okay. So here, once you create the record, it is triggering the business rule. Through the business rule, you are firing the REST message. Once you fire the REST message, you are also passing these values to the REST message. The REST message is actually connecting with the external system, and it is creating a record there. So let me just try to create one more record here, the incident table. If I just click on color here, category, test 3, all here as phone. Once I create this record, it will trigger the business. Business rule will actually trigger the REST message. The REST message will actually connect with the external system. It will create a record there. So here we are actually passing. Here we are actually passing the data using these keywords. Using these keywords, I'm actually passing the data. These keywords I specified in the REST message. Here, if you take a look at the REST message, those keywords you can find here: caller, SD, description, and CT. Okay. Fine. Now let me just go and create a record here. And now here I will check whether the record is created on the incident table or not. Record is created just now, which is fine. This record number is actually INC 0010003. Whatever the record is created, this particular record SysID, this particular record number, I want it on this incident form. What I do here, I have actually two fields available: correlation ID, correlation display fields already there on the incident table. I will actually get that on the form, or else if I want, I can create two new fields. I have already two fields: correlation ID, correlation display. If I want those, I can utilize the already existing fields. If I don't want them, I can also create two new fields. So if you have already two fields, why do you have to create two? So I am using existing two fields. Configure form layout. So correlation ID, correlation display. So these two fields I want to make read only. Because why do we have to make them read only? These values are coming from external system, right? We should not modify them. That is why I am making these fields read only. I will tell you how to populate those things now. Okay. So once I create the record here, whatever the details that we have, using all those details, it will create a record on the external system. Whatever the record created there in the external system, those details like number and system ID should be populated here in these fields. Okay. So what do we have to do in this case? We go to the business rule. Inside the business rule, once we executed, we will get the response. Once we execute this one, right, we will get the response from the external system. So I will store here where response is equal to. So what I do, where response body is equal to response dot get body. So you are actually getting the response body. Okay. So you will actually get the response in a string format. Okay. You have to convert that as object. How do you convert that as object? Is that where parsed response is equal to JSON dot parse. Inside that you will have to provide the response body. Okay. Fine. After that, After that, so you will actually get the response in the JSON format. Okay. So first we will understand what is the response that we are receiving. For that, I'm actually just keeping gs.addInfo message and then parse response. No, not parse response. I'm showing response body here. Okay. I'm just creating the record here. I'm just creating a record here. Once I create the record, we will get the response. That response will be shown in the form. As it is a sync business rule, it is running in the background, right? That is why it is not showing anything on the form. Let us make it as after business rule. Then it will actually show the content on the form. Okay. So this is the response that we have got. So this is the incident number that is actually created in the external system. So this is the system ID. Where is the system ID? SysID. Somewhere around here. Here. So here you are actually getting the number, system ID, and some other details as well. But I want only system ID and number. From this response, I want to get system ID and number. So the system ID number belongs to external system incident number. See, once you are creating record here, right? That using those values, it is actually creating record on external system. Whatever the record that is created in the external system, that particular record number, that particular system ID, you are actually getting as response here. Those details you have to populate it here. Okay, how do you populate those details? I will just show you now. So not only system ID, not only um, number, you can actually get other field values as well. So I am just getting only these two values. These are because these two are unique, right? Okay, I am just removing this add info message here. So we are getting the response in JSON format. We are getting the response in JSON format. So we have to get that system ID number carefully from the JSON object. Okay. So here, so in which field we have to populate correlation ID, U underscore correlation ID. This is actually custom field I had actually created earlier, I believe. U underscore correlation ID, correlation display. I'm just taking correlation display. Okay. Here, current dot correlation ID is equal to this parsed response dot result dot number. I think somewhere result of 0, I believe. Why am I taking this line of script? I'll show you. Explain you, no worries. Current dot u underscore correlation ID is equal to parsed response dot sysID. You have to update the current form, right? To update the current form, we have to use current dot update. Okay. So what most of the people recommends, using current dot update in the business rule is not a best practice. Why is that? Because it can actually invoke other scripts. That is the reason it is not recommended to use current dot update in the business rule, but we have used it. So in rare cases, we have to use current dot update, but in that case, what we have to do as a precautionary, we have to use current dot set workflow false, which will actually stop other scripts running. Before using current dot update, you are actually using current dot set workflow false. Okay, I'm just saving this one. Here I'm going to create a new record here. Once I create the record will be created in the external system. Whatever the record that is created in the external system, that particular record number and that particular record ID will be displayed here. But these records are the values are not getting displayed here. There is an issue. We have to debug that issue. So what we can do, we can just keep. I'm just keeping info message or log here. gs dot add info message. I just want to check what is the response that we are getting. Are we able to retrieve the response properly or not? I'm taking this response JSON formatter online. I think we did not copy it diligently. Result directly here what is the mistake that we have done here is, here unnecessarily we did keep this one.
Array field means,
Unnecessarily we kept this one. So now I am going to remove this one. So once I create the record here, it should create a record on the external system. Those details after creating the record in the Excel system, those details should be populated here. So this is the incident number that is created in the Excel system. So if you take this incident number here, if you go here, if you try to open this particular incident number here, so this is the record, right? So this is the record that is created in the Excel system, right? So if you take a look at the 57952 system ID, it starts with 57952, right? 57952. 57952. This is the number. Okay. So why do we need these details? Why do we need these details? So we need to have a reference, right? So when I create the record here, which record is created in the external system, we should have reference, right? So we will have these reference in the correlation ID and correlation display. And secondly, if you update this particular record, the record has to be updated there. If you update this particular record, the record has to be updated there, right? How system can identify which record has to be updated in the external system? Using this correlation ID and correlation display only, system will be able to identify which record has to be updated in the external system.
understand, Uday.
Okay. So now what I am going to do is, I am going to create a table API in this system. In this instance, I am going to create a table API because this is actually receiving the data, right? For receiving the data, that is called inbound. When ServiceNow is actually receiving the request, that is called inbound, right? For inbound, we have to create a table API. So now what I am going to do, I am going to create a table API to update the record in the system. I am going to REST API Explorer here. So for updating, we will use either put or patch. I am going to take it patch here. So we'll discuss put later. Now I am going to take patch here. So incident table. Incident table. So which record you want to update, that particular record SysID you have to provide here. So here in the incident, you will take this particular record here. You go here, you will provide SysID. And here you will provide short description as hello. So when you send this request, right, it will actually update only that particular record. 200, okay. If you go to this record, this short description is updated here or not. So now what I do here, I'll actually take this API out. Okay. Or if you scroll a little down here, you can also take this one. But here this SysID should be dynamic. Whatever the record that we are updating, that should be dynamic. So what we do here, I am going to the REST message here again. Where is the REST message? This is the REST message. Here I am going to create a new HTTP method here. Here I am selecting patch here. Update. This sysid 57952 sysid should be dynamic. It should not be the same sysid. We should not always be updating the same record, right? So how do we make dynamic? Dollar flower brackets sysid, some unique name, system ID you can keep. Okay. So I am just only passing short description. The short description I have to make dynamic. Dollar SD. Okay. Now what I do, when I update this incident short description here, okay, so in the external system as well, the record short description should be updated. So when I update the short description here, this particular record short description should be updated there in the external system. So what I do, again, I will create a business rule. I will create a business rule. So this business rule not on insertion. This time this is actually an updation. And here I have to clear cutly specify only when short description changes. Okay. Only you are allowing users to modify short description on the external systems. You can modify multiple fields. I'm just giving you an example as one field. So here in place of what you will do, HTTP method name, whatever the HTTP method name that you created, that HTTP method name, you will take it and you will keep it here. Okay. I am just only passing short description. Here I have to pass. Here I have to pass. If you take a look at the here, system ID I have to pass here. Not system ID, correlation ID we can keep. Correlation ID. Okay. So here you are clearly specifying on the external system which record has to be updated. So if you take a look at here this incident, right? This correlation ID I am passing here. If you take a look at here, business rule, right? Current dot u underscore okay. You don't have to have all these things. This unnecessary stuff is not required. Okay. Okay.
But update is mandatory, right? In the script.
Update is mandatory.
Yeah, we need to insert our update, right? No statement.
Here we have specified update, right? We are actually triggering update REST message, right?
Correct.
Now, right, I am just changing short description here as test Uday 45. Okay, I am changing the short description here. As soon as I change the short description here, this business rule will be triggered, right? Once the business rule is triggered, that will actually trigger the REST message. The REST message will actually update here or not. Is it updating the record or not? So now we have just seen how we are able to create the record in the external system. and how we are able to update the records in the external systems. Okay. Clear, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So similar way, we have to delete the records as well. Once we delete the record, that usually doesn't happen. In the organizations, people don't delete the records. So what if we delete the record? If we delete the record should be deleted in the external system as well. For deleting the record, you have to go to the external system in the here in the REST API Explorer. You select delete record here. For delete record also, you have to provide the system ID. So which record you want to delete, that particular record sysID you have to provide here. Okay. So once you click on this one, it will actually delete a record. No content. So that means if you refresh this one, the record will not be available. So let us pull the record back again. So you have to go to deleted records and pull the record back again. Now the record is back. So what I do, where is the rest message? The rest message is gone. Not rest message, REST API Explorer. For REST API Explorer as well, we need sysID. So before we do that, right? Whatever the user account that you created in the system, right? INC integration, some if that user has delete permission or not, we have to check. So we have only granted ITIL. ITIL roles will not be able to delete the record. So then what we have to do, we have to go to the user account again. I am granting ITIL admin role. So here what I do, after that, I will actually reset the password again. I will reset the password again. So now I will go to the REST message. So after changing the password, my system is able to reach the external system or not. I have to check. How do I check that? I can just click on test here. So if my system is able to reach the external system, it will give 200. Success. Okay. Now I have to delete the records. I'm going to create a delete HTTP method. Here I'm actually selecting delete HTTP method. So endpoint similar to this one. Dollar flower brackets system ID. Here you don't have to pass any content here for deleting. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a business rule. This time the business rule will be triggered whenever the record is deleted. Okay. So here it will be delete HTTP method. It will be system ID. Here we have to change the condition here. Short description changes condition. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to delete this incident record. Once I delete this incident record, so the problem here is once you delete this incident record, right, the current object will not be available. After deleting the incident, current object will not be available. You have to use before delete. In the business rule, before delete. I am going to delete this record. So once I delete this record, so the record has to be deleted in this external system as well. Record is deleted or not?
Yes, sir.
So once you create the record here, the record has to be created in the external system, and you have to get that correlation ID, correlation display on the form, because to update that, to delete that, you have to have that references. Okay. So here, right, what we have done for inbound, for one instance it is inbound, for one instance it is outbound. For outbound we use REST message, for inbound we use table API. So tomorrow we are going to learn about import set API. So why did not we use table API? Why are we going to use import set API? So there are some drawbacks with the table API. That is why we will go for import set API. Okay. So hope you enjoyed this. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Let me just stop the recording, guys.